Hi everyone, this is Andy Vu and welcome to my channel. Today I want to share my experience comparing the Canon R3 and the Sony A1 Mark II. Some people may say that the Sony A1 Mark II should be compared to the Canon R1 instead. That is true, but in this video, I'm sharing my personal experience using the Canon R3 and the Sony A1 Mark II. I switched from Canon to Sony, so I have experience with both systems. I used the Canon R3 from the time it was released, and I've been using the Sony A1 Mark II since October 25th until now. In this video, I will talk about what I like, what I don't like, and the differences I noted between the two cameras. The sensor resolution. The Canon R3 has a 24 megapixel sensor. That is only about half the resolution of the Sony A1 Mark II, which has 50 megapixel. This big difference is one of the main reasons why I switched to the Sony A1 Mark II. Sensor and shutter speed. Both cameras had a full frame stack CMOS sensor and can shoot up to 30 frames per second. The Canon R3 has 1053 autofocus points. That is much more than the Sony A1 Mark II, which has 759 focus points. In real world, both autofocus systems feel very similar. Both cameras track eyes very well, and when shooting birds, both can sometimes focus on the high contrast areas like tree branches instead of the bird, especially if the bird is small in the frame. Both cameras have similar autofocus system, but the Canon R3 autofocus farther and more accurately. Its tracking is also quicker than the Sony A1 Mark II. The R3 can lock on to the bird's eye or head almost instantly even when using a wide focus area. Focus area is much different. Sony cameras have many focus area modes. Wide mode, the camera focuses automatically across almost the whole screen, that means whole sensor. This sounds good, but when you shoot birds, you can miss focus. The camera may focus on the tree branches instead of the bird. Zone mode. You choose a specific area zone on the screen, and the camera will focus only inside that area. The focus point does not move outside the zone, but if the bird is small in the frame, the camera may still focus on the tree branches inside the zone. Center fix. The camera focuses only on the center of the image with a small area. Expand spot. The camera uses the center focus point first. If it cannot focus, it uses the points around it to help. Custom mode. For me, this mode is not useful. Tracking mode. This is a special mode for continuous subject tracking. It uses a powerful AI processing unit to recognize humans, animals, birds, insects, and vehicles more accurately. For bird photography, this is the only mode that is really useful for me. In tracking mode, you can still choose other focus area inside it, such as wide, zone, center fix, custom, and expand spot. So this mode already includes all the other options. This is good enough for almost every situation. I don't understand why Sony makes so many focus area mode. It makes users confused. Even in tracking mode, the Sony A1 Mark II can still focus on the tree branches or leaf instead of the bird when using wide area. The zone mode is tracking has the same issue, but it performs a little bit better. The Canon R3 is simple but very powerful. Just like the Sony A1 Mark II, whole area autofocus use all 1053 focus points for fully automatic subject tracking across the entire frame. Flexible zone autofocus lets you change the size of the focus area. You can choose a small 3x3 area, 9 points, or very large area up to 37x27. That means 999 points. 1 point autofocus. A single focus point, you can adjust the size of it. Spot autofocus, a smaller version of a 1 point focus for more precise focusing. Expand autofocus area. Use one center point plus surrounding point, either for direction or full group around it. Users can choose any of the most. Once the focus point locks on the subject, the camera will track the subject across the entire sensor. This tracking system feels more advanced than the Sony A1 Mark II, even though the Canon R3 was released in 2021. With whole area autofocus, tracking turned on and eye tracking enabled, the performance is very good. The camera locks on the bird's eye almost instantly, and it rarely focuses on the tree branches or leaves. Memory cards and battery. The Canon R3 had 2 card slots, one for CF Express Type B and one for SD cards. The Sony A1 Mark II also has 2 card slots, but both can accept either CF Express Type A or SD cards. Sony is more flexible in this area, and I am really like this. Canon claims the Canon R3 can shoot about 760 shots per battery, and Sony say the A1 Mark II can shoot about 520 shots per battery. But in my opinion, one LPE19 battery in the Canon R3 can last up to around 4,500 shots. For the Sony A1 Mark II, one NP FG100 battery lasts about 500 shots. This isn't a big deal for me because I use an external battery, like the SmallRig NP-F970, and I can easily shot more than 10,000 photos with the Sony A1 Mark II. The shutter speed. The maximum electronic shutter speed of the Canon R3 is 1/64,000 seconds, while the Sony A1 Mark II goes up to 1/32,000 seconds. This difference matters when shooting portraits in bright daylight. With 1/64,000 on the Canon R3, you can keep a wide aperture like f1.2 without using an ND filter. You can also switch to the something like 1/160 seconds when moving to the side. With the Sony A1 Mark II, you can use the ND filter to show this, so it is not a major problem. Video capabilities. The Canon R3 can shoot video up to 4K at 120 frames per second. The Sony A1 Mark II can shoot up to 8K at 30 frames per second and 4K at 120 frames per second. To me, 4K at 120 frames per second is good enough. Shooting 4K at 120 frames per second allows you to create very smooth slow motion footage in post-production. Compatibility. A limitation with Sony is teleconverter compatibility. The Sony FE teleconverter does not work with the Sigma 500mm f5.6, so you cannot get closer to the bird. With this Sony and Sigma combination, I only have 500mm because I cannot add a 1.4x extender. The only option is to use the 1.5x crop mode, which gives a field of view similar to 750mm. In-body image stabilization. The Canon R3's IBIS works with third-party IF lenses like Sigma and Tamron. The Sony A1 Mark II does not support IBIS with some third-party lenses. I use the Sigma 500mm. f5.6 with the Sony A1 Mark II. And IBIS does not work. The lens had the built-in stabilization, but it isn't strong enough when the camera shakes from the wind or people moving nearby. With the Canon R3, IBIS help reduce this vibration, giving more stable shots. Because of this compatibility limitation and IBIS performance, it is usually better to use Sony lenses instead of third-party lenses. This means you may need to spend more money on Sony lenses for your gear. Image clarity. Both the Canon R3 and the Sony A1 Mark II have a built-in image clarity function that you can adjust based on your needs. On the Canon R3, this feature works very well. Even if you increase the clarity to the maximum level, the image looks clear and sharper, but the noise level does not increase. On the Sony A1 Mark II, it is not as good. When you increase the clarity, the image shows a lot of more noise. Because of this, I feel the clarity function on the Sony does not perform as well as on the Canon. The output signal via HDMI. This is very important. The Sony A1 Mark II can send a 4K signal through HDMI ports in both video mode and photo mode. This means I can take photo with a camera while recording 4K on a external monitor recorder like Automotive Ninja. The Canon R3 only sends a 4K HDMI signal via video. In photo mode, it outputs only Full HD 1080p through HDMI. Also, you cannot turn off the HDMI information display because the external monitor works like a live view screen. Because of that, I cannot record a clean video while taking photos and can only record 1080p video. The Sony A1 Mark II allows you to turn the HDMI info display on or off, so I can record a clean 4K video external while taking photos. To turn on or off the HDMI info display in the Sony A1 Mark II, turn the menu on, navigate to the setup menu, and external output, and HDMI info display, then turn it on or off. Here is a sample video recorded with the Automotive Ninja connected to the Canon R3 while taking photos. It is loaded on the 4K timeline. Menu system and RAW options. The Canon menu system, like on the R3, is very simple and easy to navigate. The Sony menu system is more complicated, with many features we often don't need. This can make it harder to find the settings you want. I don't know who really needs all those features that Sony added to its menu, but I know I don't need all of them. I use the Sony A1 Mark II for both photography and video, and many of those features are not necessary for my work. Sony does give more flexibility with RAW files. Canon only allows compressed RAW, while Sony lets you choose between uncompressed, compressed lossless, or compressed RAW, depending on your need. I like this feature on Sony A1 Mark II. The last thing I want to talk about is the external connection. The Sony A1 Mark II uses a full-size HDMI port. It's much stronger and more durable compared to the micro HDMI port on the Canon R3. I use an external recording monitor to record video while also taking photos. Because of that, I need to plug and unplug the HDMI cable many times. In this situation, I feel the micro HDMI on the Canon R3 may not last long. These are some of the main differences between the Canon R3 and the Sony A1 Mark II. I hope this helped you decide whether to stick with Canon or switch to Sony. Thanks a lot for watching and supporting my channel. I hope you are all doing well. See you in the next video and bye for now.